Okay, going a little different of a direction. I want to talk about the codexes. I know I mentioned and highly recommend if you've played 40k for a while, you've played Dark Vengeance, but now you just kind of want to get into an army and just kind of grow it and play with it and just have fun. I recommended, and I still highly recommend, getting the Codex. Get the Codex, learn your army, learn what they can do. Maybe there's a unit or two that you never really gave thought to what they could do, or you actually read rules and find out there, hey, this unit can actually do this special ability. But I kind of want to go on a different scale. And I want to talk about the codexes and really the major... I'm not going to say overhaul, but... Oh, what would be the word to describe of what GW is doing right now? Would you call it realignment, changing, doing something completely different, out of the ordinary? They're doing, and this is kind of what I'm referring to, where when 7th edition came out, about middle of last year, basically from 6th edition, they started updating codexes. And at the start of 7th edition, it was pretty much determined that 3 codexes were going to be getting up, codexes that haven't been updated, that really need to be updated, were going to get updated. And I'm referring to Space Wolves, Blood Angels, Orcs, Necrons. All of them basically working out of the 5th edition Codex. So it's been a while. And they've been really needing to get updated. But now that 7th edition has come out, those codexes have changed. Those of us who have been playing for a while, and I've been playing since about the later half of 6th edition, will understand what I mean when I say when we've played, we were playing, and we're limited to what we could play, how much we could play, with the force organization chart. 1 headquarters, 2 troops, and then you're kind of limited on what you could take as far as fast attack, or heavy support, elite choices. And in a way, you still are now. However, now, in these updated codexes, you can take formations. In which, if you've ever played an Apocalypse game, or you have the big Apocalypse rulebook, flip through that and look at all the formations you can play. And essentially, that is the new codexes. Now, I think it's a great idea. However, let's stop for a minute and actually look at it from, let's just say, from my perspective as a Space Marine player. Because in the last couple of games I've played, I've gone up against 7th edition codexes. I've gone up against Grey Knights, I've gone up against Space Wolves, I've gone up against Harlequins, and have royally, well, except for the game I played against Space Wolves, I royally got my hand beaten. I mean, not just beaten, I mean, I was crushed. And against my buddy playing Harlequins. Harlequins haven't really gotten a lot of good praise. Really not much good has been said about Harlequins. But in that particular game, the only thing I had left on the table was a Devastator squad. So, that bad. Now, and this is where I want some feedback. So, please, comment below. Do 6th edition codexes even stand any bit of a chance against these 7th edition codexes? Now, given certain ones, I think, stand more of a chance, i.e., the Tau, or the Imperial Guard. Although some can argue, and I was actually talking to a buddy at my local game store yesterday, and was telling him that you could argue that the Imperial Guard were written with 7th edition in mind, because they were the last codex that got updated before 7th edition's release. And now we're getting rumors, at least let's kind of take a look real quick. We had Space Wolves that got updated, then we had the Blood Angels, then we had Orcs, or maybe it was Orcs and then Blood Angels. We had Necrons just a little after the first of the year. Or at least it's been not that long. We've had Harlequin. About 2-3 weeks ago, we had the Khorne Demonkin. And the servants of Khorne are really loving that. And we just had the Adeptus Mechanicus, the Scutari Codex, come out. And I'm kind of interested to see how they play. And I'm saying this because right now I'm in the middle of putting together my Necron army. That's right. I bit the bullet. I decided I'm going to go for a second army, and I'm starting Necrons. And I'm not just doing 1 or 2 squads here or there. I'm going all out. Right now I've got, at least assembled, I have just a regular Overlord, the Command Barge, I can make an Annihilation Barge too, with the Overlord, 2 sets of Warriors, 6 bases of Scarabs. And I've got a lot more. I've got about 7 more. I'm putting together one set, 7 more to go. And I want to see and play and see how these 7th edition codex play. And how they react. How these formations. And the only reason I went with Necrons was because, one, they've actually been a solid army for a while. I have played a few games against Necrons back when they were still in their 5th edition codex with my Imperial Fists out of the 6th edition codex. And they were tight games. Every single one of them. Probably one of the best games I've played against Necrons. It's been a few months, but essentially, the game ended up in a draw, and the only thing that the Necron forces had was a Night Scythe, or Doom Scythe, a flyer. So now I'm wondering, okay, do these formations, do they give them more of an advantage? Does it open up more opportunities? But I can kind of see an upside to formations because maybe they force you to actually play something that you're not used to. Like for Marines, I've got 2 squads of scouts with sniper rifles. And I have never played them in a game. Well, recent rumors I've heard is that we're expecting possibly, maybe, still completely unconfirmed, and Games Workshop's always been hesitant, but it's been catching steam again, has been that Sisters of Battle are supposed to get new codex, as well as plastic models. Then, sometime this summer, Eldar is supposed to get an update, Space Marines are supposed to get an update. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, great, I'm gonna have to save up 50, maybe $60 for a brand new codex just to run my Imperial Fists. And I'm not saying that's that in a bad way. But I'm saying it in a way that makes me wonder, okay, so what are they gonna do differently, or what are they gonna do to Space Marines to make them more competitive in 7th edition? In fact, I was completely surprised when I even saw in the rumor mills that Eldar and Marines were going to get an update, when really the first army that should be getting an update out of the original codexes should be, and yes, I'm giving you guys a lot of love here because you guys really need it, and that is the Dark Angels. They were the first codex to get updated in 6th edition. They really need an update, but the only reason I'm thinking that they haven't gotten an update yet is the fact that they've got the Raven Wing, they've got the Death Wing. The Raven Wing especially is a very solid build. Now, with that aside, what would they do with some of these formations? Like, I have the Necron Codex, and there's there's one major formation with some auxiliary formations. Or I could run it as a combined arms detachment and still use the established force org charts back from 6th edition. But I feel like Games Workshop is really wanting us to go more towards formations. But then what do you do when you come to Space Marines? Right now, I can run one of 7 different chapter tactics. Now, ideally, here's what I could see. And this is just my own thought process. I could see them making just plain old generic Space Marine formations, hopefully keeping the chapter tactics intact as they are now, because it would really suck as an Imperial Fist player, Ultramarine, White Scars, Iron Hands, to play and instill and ingrain and memorize and utilize your chapter tactics to your advantage, only to find out, forget them. We're changing them. So I could see some general formations, just general Space Marine specifics. I could also see them coming out with a lot of supplements, especially for the more common. Like currently, Space Marines have Clan of Rukon, Iron Fist supplement, or Iron Hand supplement, and Sentinels of Terra, an Imperial Fist supplement. So I could see them taking the common ones, Ultramarines, Salamanders, White Scars, Imperial Fists, and making supplements with them. And making more chapter-specific formations. Again, similar to out of the Apocalypse book. Whereas, for example, Imperial Fist, I only have one formation. The Titan Hammer, which is basically Lysander and 3 or more Assault Terminator squads that are fitted as Thunderhammer Storm Shields. So I could see that. I really could. But what are the possibilities that we could be seeing completely new armies? Because we just had the Adeptus Mechanicus. At least from what I'm told, part 1. Okay, so if Skitarii are basically part 1, book 1 codex of the Adeptus Mechanicus, then what's going to be part 2? We're going to see more in part 2, more of the vehicles, more of the Titans, maybe? Are we going to see a Dark Mechanicum for followers of Chaos and their version of the Adeptus Mechanicus? Are we going to see maybe a couple more books for the other Chaos Gods? Tzeentch, Slaanesh, Nurgle. I could see one for Nurgle. Nurgle and Khorne, probably the 2 more common played Marines of Chaos. You know, we just had Harlequins. You know, what else are we gonna see? Would they come out with more, maybe chapter-specific codexes? You have the Blood Angels, you have the Dark Angels, you've got Space Wolves, Grey Knights. So, are we gonna see, like, White Scars get their own codex? Imperial Fist get their own codex? Ultramarines with their own codex? How practical that is, I don't know, because with Space Marines, their models are just so generic, you can make them really any chapter you want. You create your own chapter. So I don't necessarily see that. But what do you guys think? Do you really think that 7th edition codexes actually have a little bit more of an edge over codexes from 6th edition, especially the early updated ones, like Dark Angels and Space Marines, um, Eldar. Because really, I think the only way I can see, like, I can actually, depending on who I'm facing, what type of points, what type of missions, deployment, what my opponent's bringing to the table, what abilities they've got, I could see myself, I could probably, if I had a chance, cater a list that maybe, if I didn't have the confidence that it would actually win, at least make it go the full 5 turns, if not into six turns or 7. So tell me, what do you guys think? Do we in the early codexes stand a chance? Or do you think that they really need to update us soon so that we can stay on par, so that we can still enjoy playing our armies and how we've come to really love these armies?